Tunde, back to you. Tunde, are we having challenges? Thank you.
Hold on.
Freedom, peace, and unity. Thank you. Thank you, Tunde. We'll go over straight to our President's opening remark, Mrs. Patricia Idunoba Oshobu, FNAPE. I like that part.
Thank you.
Over
All
to
right.
you, ma'am.
Good day, everyone. I was tempted to say good evening, but looking at the list of participants, I see that people have joined in from every time zone. So you're all very welcome to our UAP Roundtable. And I'm particularly excited that we are having this opportunity to discuss things that pertain to our industry, to how we teach our students, and to how we live. And why I'm this excited is that this is an opportunity for us to craft the narrative that describes our circumstances as a people and as a nation, even in the light of the energy transition and the conversations that are going on globally on what to do or what not to do. There's no doubt that the energy transition is here. The doubt in my mind, or the unknown in my mind, is the timing. I do not believe that the transition is today, but there is a future, it's a future event, and the discussions we're going to be having today and for the rest, into the conference and maybe into next year, will help us to come up with a roadmap on how we can navigate that. In NAPE, we believe that this season we are in is a period of great learning, also a period to unlearn the things that will not help us, and then to relearn that which will help us. And I'm particularly pleased that the UAP community is here, because they are the people who are in the trenches, in the forefront of making sure that the coming generation gets it and gets it right. So on that note, I welcome you all to this deliberation, and I wish every one of us a fruitful time. Back to you, Emmanuel. You are muted.
Thank you very much, my president, and thank you for being time conscious. I think we'll fly straight to the presentation. In my thinking, I'm not sure we need to reintroduce Dr. Fatona FNAPE. I think all of us know him, but I also only wanted to introduce him now as a retired entrepreneur geologist, which is the name he asked me to be calling him now, among other names, which include Igwe. So Tunde, do you want to share his slide? Or Dr. Fatona, I think you are now a host. You can also share your slide by yourself so that you can drive us to where you want us to be.
Okay, Emmanuel, thank you very much. Madam President, I want to believe that everybody is hearing me.
Yes, please.
There are no technical hitches. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And there's nothing as refreshing as being in one's what you call local constituency. Emmanuel and I have been having a tango as to how he would describe me. First of all, let me report Emmanuel to the total audience. He has refused to accept that I'm a retired ex-managing director of Niger Delta or whatever. I am retired. Nobody believes that I'm retired, but I want to state categorically that anything that I do now, it's out of my own volition. Even coming to this event, I opted for it. And you can't opt for many things if you are not retired. So it's always my pleasure to be doing things for NAPE. Sometimes even I take that for granted, you know. So today, I had the pleasure of this very informal session. And I don't know what has happened. My backdrop is everything is right except something is flipped. But never mind. We will get used to it. And I'm going to depend on today to guide my talk today. So today, if you go to first slide.
Okay, sir.
We, just like Emmanuel said, this is the 17th NAPE-UAP Roundtable Forum. I chose the narrative and I used the sentence, redefining the Pan-African energy transition narrative. And there is a very strong reason why I chose this very casual opportunity to talk around what it is that I'm going to share today. Madam President has actually enunciated the fact that NAPE is a voice. We're an institution, and we always think ahead of a lot of things. So I am having this conversation with a very, very select group of people, and I thought this is the right environment, the NAPE-UAP Roundtable Forum. And I'm going to invite everybody to join the narrative, to join the conversation, because we will redefine a very vexing matter. So if I go to slide 2, my thoughts will be just in this slide, in slide 2. We are still showing slide 1.
Tunde, do you want me to help you?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just going to do a little bit of a flip back to February 2021, when I had the unusual privilege of talking to the APG visiting geoscience program in one of the super sessions. And then what did I talk about during that session? They are the things that are precipitating the concerns that I'm sharing in this particular conversation. And it's all about Africa's need for plenty of energy. Nigeria is a very major case study where we will talk about affordability and availability, which remain a very critical issue. And the concept is that most African states have sufficiency of raw energy in a form that we still can't use. But over time, and the last 6 months, the approach for me is, if we get it right and we start this conversation from here, we can get our expectations to, we can generate sufficiency of interest, which will propel this conversation to a point where NAPE will even take and own it. And then I would have done my bit, because then I would have thrown my concerns to a general audience. And what we'll be seeing here is that the conversations, which I feel are very urgent, would highlight some of the problems that I see when we discuss energy transition, the narratives that are now being imposed on Africa, which is a little bit very troubling for me. And I just want to make a case that we should do things a little bit for a longer period of time if we're going to take Africa and the rest of its population into the conversation of transition, energy transition. Let's go to the next slide. It's this first slide that I used in my AAPG Visiting Geoscience Program presentation. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now, at that meeting, I was talking about energy independence and security and how it was a dilemma for Africa. And I took Nigeria's option for how we can realize energy independence and security. But in the last 6 months, things have spun out of control, very, very, very organized in a way that makes me very uncomfortable. And if we go to the next slide, what have we gotten ourselves to in over time? So in the next slide, in that event, I retreated on the fact that energy independence had been, it is, and may continue to be a dilemma for Africa. And in that conversation, we progressed on how Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, can use of a roadmap for achieving energy independence and security. Now, but what had happened, the global conversation then went on, and it was been driven by climate change, environmental challenges, the intent to reduce carbon footprint, to map out a very fast-paced journey towards energy transition. And when I say fast-paced, everybody's talking about being carbon neutral by year 2050. 2050 may sound quite a bit of a generational time in front of us, but it is not. And the reason why I believe it is not is that the hard realities and how the push of this is speedily relegating the most vulnerable and unprepared continent of Africa nearer to economic oblivion. It is a matter of concern personally to me. And we, as energy merchants, we are the creators of energy, not just for Nigeria, but professionally all over the world. I think it should concern us. It should be for us in the energy business to identify that this is a peril. And having recognized that it is a peril, we must reorganize the difficulties our own industry is facing, and that we must generate interest, even at the very, very strict conversation level, to make a case for an African voice in discussing environmental and climate change. We are not discussing it enough. And maybe just in a normal casual attitude to life, yes, we can live with it. I mean, if it's too hot, you remove your shirt. But that's not the story that the whole world is trying to impose on us. Now, let's go to the next slide. And I borrowed this from my presentation in February. The next slide shows a raw energy map of Africa. And the major message here is that there's no part of Africa that does not have one form of raw energy, whether it is solar, whether it is fossil fuel, whether it's coal, uranium, whatever, hydroelectricity. Africa has sufficiency of energy in the raw form. But when we come to then add to that narrative, where is energy for Africa? And if you go to the next slide, the story is more very glaring. This is the very sad story of energy in Africa. For most of Africa, energy supply is in the form of fossil fuels. And this is the form that everybody is running down and making it sound that, oh, we can do without it. Of course, yes, we can use it. We can improve on its use. But if you look at the slide to the left, the current availability of energy between 2020 to 2050 and to 2100 has been put here by the International Renewable Energy Agency for all of us. And if you look at the roadmap there, we're expected to increase the availability of energy in the realm of about 135 units more than we are currently having, all expectedly to come from not the raw, more abundant forms of energy that Africa can boast of, but in solar and wind or other forms of renewable energy. And the message here for me is, how does Africa, how does Nigeria, and if we come back even nearer home, in the view of the circumstances that we are dealing with today, I mean, all of you know how expensive energy is. So we're looking at a situation where in Nigeria, and it's the same thing all over Africa, where the matter of energy security has not even been fully addressed. Sadly, in Nigeria, for example, here we are, we produce so much of energy in the form of gas, in the form of crude, and yet, sadly, you know the amount of money we have to spend to bring energy back into this country in the form of refined products. So let's pack that. So we have recognized, we have spoken about it, that we do not have energy security. But then add to that problem the expectation that we must comply with environmental and climate change requirements. It's even going to compound how we deal with making energy available, making affordable energy available to all of us in Nigeria, when we want it, where we want it, and in a very, very affordable form. And I think this is where the narrative is. So if we go to the next slide, let's go to the next slide. There's a very, very simple map here of Africa. And over 60% of sub-Saharan Africans still lack access to electricity. 60% of sub-Saharan Africans. And if you look on this map, the bulk of sub-Saharan Africans that lack access to electricity are essentially West Africans and East Africans. Well, Central Africa, South Africa, North Africa, they also lack, but not in the form, magnitude, shape that rings the bell for us in West Africa and in East Africa. In other words, the brunt of not having adequacy of energy in an affordable form, when we want it, where we want it, is going to be incrementally borne by West Africans and East Africans. And this is where I strongly believe that our voice needs to be heard in the way and manner that the world expects us to comply with the energy transition story and its narrative. So let's go to just the conversation itself. Let's go to the next slide. The story is that dependence on fossil energy is shrinking. We are not going to contest that fact. It has started like a fast-moving train. The whole world is subscribing to it. We will obviously have to do something about fossil energy that we have in abundance all over Africa. And if I come home even more to Nigeria, we must address what we are going to do in this very short period of time speedily, such that this fossil energy is used for the benefit of most of us. Now, so let me ask the next question. So what does this mean for Africa? And every time I talk about Africa, I will flip the question back, closer home. What does it mean for Nigeria? It is nothing but bad news. It is very, very bad news. And this brings me back to where I started from in my conversations in February. And everybody and every opportunity that I've had to talk on energy, I have always said that without energy security and energy independence, we cannot even imagine the kind of development that is conceptualized, that is envisaged, that is expected to come our way through the endorsement of the Petroleum Industry Act. Now, this is my conversation. This is my narrative. This is my story. And I strongly believe that we, as energy practitioners, have to force the conversation that the way the world is going, simply because of the expectation of environmental climate change, and let's face it, are we the cause of all this? Well, this is not going to be a very, very good and very straightforward story to tell. So if we go to the next slide, which is where I am going to ask and pause. NAPE, through the UAP, need to drive this conversation. We need to talk about, we need to talk about environmental climate change. We need to talk about energy transition. And we must talk about this in the full realization that we want to still ensure that Nigeria and the rest of Africa can use of its own raw energy in the best way it feels, without being stifled out, as it were, in the process. And the way that the conversation of the transition, the energy transition is going, it will stifle, it will snuff life out of how we use of our energy. Because even if we don't get investment, if we don't get new capital, if we cannot enhance the development of energy for our own immediate everyday use, then this is not going to be a very good story. So I am posting this, I am starting this conversation, not because I know the answer, but because I feel passionate and I feel concerned enough that we need to take this once again as a professional challenge. It is not beyond us. We have taken on quite a number of issues over time. And because we hammered and talked about it, we got either the government or society to accept that whatever it is that we are talking about needs to be talked about. So I know I haven't taken too much time. That is what I wanted to do today. I didn't want to take much time of people, but I wanted us to start to think about how are we going to drive this conversation, because it is of significant concern to me personally, and I think it should be of concern to us. And the only place I thought I could bring this case is at this high level of the UAP Roundtable. Thank you very much. I hope I have said it the way that I felt. And Emmanuel, you are the anchor today. So I would put this back into your court. So you drive the conversation as you want. Thank you.
Thank you, retired entrepreneur geologist, Dr. Layi Fatona, FNAPE. Igwe, I'm so happy that you are though retired, but not yet tired. And I'm so happy that you've given us an assignment here. I was thinking that our discussion was that after giving the assignment, you give a proposed answer so that I will start working towards your answer. But leaving it on our table for us to start discussing, and thank you very much. And I'm so happy that around us here, we have capable hands that can discuss this. That's it. We have a lot of professors within us and are here. And we also have a lot of students. Let me explain, because the number you may be seeing on the screen might be small, but what happened is that we asked the students, especially those that are still in session, to have a common room with a projector. So one name there may represent about 100 students, right? So we have a lot of Nigerian students here who I will also leave the discussion with subsequently. All protocols duly observed. I will not want to start calling by names, but I will recognize the chairman of this discussion today, Professor Olubenga Ehinola, FNAPE. You will give us your thoughts on this, please. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, Prof. Very well.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank Dr. Layi Fatona. To us here at the University of Ibadan, is a man that has 3 PhD. And when you are talking in terms of oil exploration, you know, you have to use 3D models. So he had 3 PhD, and he has delivered the lecture just promptly. And then I was able to just I highlighted some points. And I was wondering, I said, well, maybe we will change the doctor, the 3 doctors, we can combine it and make him a professor. This is so eloquent, and he really hit the nail on the head. As you can see, I just returned from Warri, where I attended a conference on optimizing gas utilization and energy transition for sustainable development. I think one of the problems we are having in Africa, especially Nigeria, is even the energy that we say that we have, how will we be able to sustain them? How will we be able to develop them optimally? There's a lot, like we look at the Saudi Arabia, the way they are able to, all the other oil producing countries, we see what they can do with their energy. I just wonder why. I think I wrote something on a NAPE bulletin that my Kuwait encountered, and I can see the way they were able to try to use both conventional, unconventional hydrocarbon, how they try to use renewable energy, and you see that they are improving every year on their energy transition. But here in Nigeria, we just, I don't even know, from the presentation here today, I can discover that East and West Africa, they are the ones that are having more problems than the North and South Africa. And it's true, because we visited all these countries and we have seen that in terms of energy, they seem to have an upper hand. And like you rightly said, today, we open the door, at least let other people contribute. But what we just need to do, which I will ask my doctor, at least when I say doctor, just imagine that it's 3 Gs and 3 doctors I'm talking to. You talked about dependence on fossil energy that is shrinking now. And without energy security and independence, then what is the new for us here, especially in Africa and also in Nigeria? You say the news is a bad news for us. So I now put a question mark. Sir, what do you want NAPE-UAP? Because as we are discussing this, a lot of people and the students and the younger ones, they want to key into a kind of research. Because where I just come from Warri, people are trying to bring the technology back home. Because you just find out that we just depend on foreign technology to start our own local technology. Not that some people cannot research and get things done, but unfortunately for us, we are still lacking in the local technology development. In this area, I believe that NAPE-UAP should be able to look at that and see how synergy can be with researchers. For example, thank God our idea find oil and gas, but there's technology of bringing this oil and gas out. And that is why when we go for NAPE every year, we see exhibition, we see people try to show us how this technology works. That is one. Then when you look at the other energy sector, like Dr. Fatona have just told us, you discover that the energy in form of fossil fuel, that is one that we have been concentrating on. And we need to shift to renewable energy. And apart from renewable energy, that is going to help us in climate change and also some of these challenges that they are trying to make us greener, I believe that Africa and Nigeria especially should not be left out, and we should key into this. A lot of money are being earmarked for ecological funding, even for climate change, but how will NAPE-UAP key into that so that people who want to research in this area, they are not being left out, and bringing the technology too to the university, as well as to the other arms, which I used to call the government, as well as the NGO, or you may call it the industry. Because I know the industry, they have a way of sustaining their own technology. So all these combined together will help us better. So I will leave this thing open to most of the people, to our audience, to make their own contribution. So at least from the lecture today is something that all of us have to key in. It's a big question. When I was just listening to the lecture, I found out that what are we going to do? Because it's it's something that we know, we can see, we can identify the problem.
Okay.
And now is the solution that we need to start looking at. So thank you very much, and thank you for listening. I really enjoy your lecture, sir, Dr. Layi Fatona. And I think NAPE-UAP should, maybe, I don't know how we start it, maybe they will try to form a committee to look at this Jamaican question, and we brainstorm on how to provide solution. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Olubanga Ehinola, FNAPE. I would suggest subsequent comment to maybe having, let's be solution oriented.
Yeah.
Triple Doctor Layi Fatona, FNAPE, really giving us a challenge that we need to champion this discussion on energy transition. And I think Professor Hinola has got one on the table. He said maybe forming a committee to look into this and then start talking about it and advising NAPE. That's one of the suggestion on the table. I have Mr. Jide Babiaga, FNAPE. He said, thank you, Dr. Fatona, for starting this conversation. Nigeria and the rest of Africa are used to playing catch up. We must not let this happen again in this matter of energy transition. Let's lead government in this effort. And if I'm to comment on this, I would say, Mr. Babiaka, thank you very much. I also think that this might be a good time to say that even our NAPE think tank committee can also, or may also want to take up on this. I'm just thinking aloud, Dr. Fatona, we may want to move in that direction as well. From Mr. Olelekon, he said, Africa needs to first address energy security, energy poverty, and energy injustice before it can have a smooth and sustainable transition. That's a comment, and I think it's deep. Mr. Olelekon, thanks for that. Thank you very much. The Africa, let me personalize it here, Nigeria, we need to think about to address energy security, poverty, and injustice before we start a smooth and sustainable transition, okay? Then Mr. Obina says, what I see from Dr. Fatona's press is that we have huge shortfall to overcome as a first step, and then we commence looking at replacement. And I think also it's good because the map of Africa that you showed the energy deposits there, and then the next slide contradicted it because with all these huge deposits, it's like we're carrying a huge elephant on our head, and we are using our toe to scramble for an ant. So I think from what I have noted here, 4 different points. First one is that we should stop playing catch-up game. Let's lead government on this. And that's where I'm bringing in that we may want to, that NAPE think tank may want to take a lead on this and then co-opt more members or more committees to help them. And then the second one is committee formation, as suggested by Professor Ehinola. Then the third one is energy insecurity, energy, as suggested by Olalekon, energy security, poverty, and injustice also needed to be addressed. And then the last one from Obina is that we may also want to look into the direction of finding a way to produce what we have before we start thinking of replacement or transition, that we still have something in-house that can still help us. So these are 4 items jumping on me. Please just remember our protocols. You may want to put in your comment on the chat, or if you have option of raising your hand on your devices, you may also want to use that option. Yeah. I'm seeing one hand. Prince Will Okechukwu. Prince Will Okechukwu. You may want to unmute yourself and talk now. Prince Will Okechukwu.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Please, like I said, let's be solution focused. There's a question on the table for us, the UAP. So let's start solving that question. Thank you, Prince Will, you can go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This energy transition topic has been a very big issue around the whole world. But I want to go straight to the point. We have seen a lot of countries who have been championing this cause over the period of time, over the last decade. Countries like the USA, countries like Indonesia, countries like Malaysia, countries like New Zealand. This is because they have identified what they have in place already. You can't be speaking of energy in transition or working towards a more sustainable future when you are not yet aware of what you have in your country yet. Jakarta which is in Indonesia. It's located in the Pacific Ring of Fire. We know how there are a lot of geothermal hotspots there. The USA, the Yellowstone, Canada, wherever, the UK recently, the Cornwall, whatsoever, New Zealand, a lot of geothermal stations, or so a lot of people wind farms, which the geothermal part is in real context of our own discipline here in geoscience. In Nigeria here, we have to find, okay, after all of these discussions, going this and that, even though the country or the presidential office should bring up a program that will help integrate, or a policy or whatsoever, or the Senate brings up a committee, what are we doing? Have we identified it yet? So the solution right now is to increase the research opportunities available. You should look around, see people who are really into sustainable energy here in Nigeria. We have a lot of, we have at least a couple of geothermal hotspots, one in Adamawa there in Lamurde that I performed the geophysical research in, but it was non-existent. To even find previous work that has been done in that place to be able to improve mine when I was in my undergraduate, it was basically impossible. So all of this, we should check inside our country, find a geothermal, or find a sustainable energy source here in Nigeria, by telling people to take certain resources, go forward and explore and bring. It is after that if the presidential office is so kind and brings up funds for all of these things, then we can now be able to look behind at what people have done and keep up the pace. If not, if we continue like this, it is by the time the whole world matures, then Nigeria comes up and we'll now start doing research at a very late time, and we'll be left behind as always. This is what I have.
Thank you very much, Prince Will. And I will allow Yinka Olayinka. Yes, please.
At least before Yinka talk, please let us look at some of our eminent professors who already put in some thought.
Oh, yes, yes. I see.
Can I read it?
Yes, I see Professor Akonde's comment, please.
Okay. So Professor Samuel Akonde, FNAPE, he of opinion that Dr. Layi Fatona has given a stimulating lecture, and he believed that his own short comment is that we should think in the direction of sustainability of whatever energy resource we are utilizing in Africa in the global context. We need to cope with all the challenges of greenhouse gas emission on the long term. That is his own summation. Because like he was saying, he said that for now, at least, though we can still continue to research in the green energy at the rise, but at least we should look at how we can sustain even the one we have. Like Dr. Layi Fatona said, he said Africa have a huge raw material, and we can see the map. We can see all the energy that Africa is having. But it's just for us to how to sustain it and look at us. We are talking about gas now. Even the government is saying this is a period of gas, and since 2020 we have been talking about gas, and now the TIB was passed, and all of us signed, and everybody was jubilating, and boom, what do you have? The price of gas was just escalating every week, and we don't know what is causing this. Is it the PIB that they signed, or is it the infrastructural deficit, or what is the problem? So these are the things that we need to look at too, because when we are talking, we also have our own African way of doing things, and we also have our own attitude. Because I cannot see any reason. I thought that when they signed the bills, things supposed to be normal, because even the PIB, some of us have opportunity of reading some aspects. We discovered that some prices were fixed, but now what is making the galloping prices? So these are questions that we need to ask ourselves. When you ask the government, you ask those people who are making the laws, then the people are made, they say we are Nigeria that put them there, and we should be able to resolve the problem amicably. So if you don't complain, then how would they answer you? And these are the kind of critical problem we are facing, and that one will cause insecurity. Now we are having energy. A lot of people they don't want to use gas again, and they started using the old this, and before you know it, we are having problems in the society. So I still believe that please, Dr. Layi Fatona, I know it's a big, like what you have just opened is a big challenge. Even NAPE, they need to brainstorm and see where they can come in and make a good policy, and they follow it up so that with government, so that they will be able to make things easier, especially for the egalitarian society. So that is why. So you can ask Yinka now his question.
Thank you very much, our chairman of today's discussion. Yinka Olayinka, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to Dr. Layi Fatona for this insightful presentation. I must say that it has really brought some gray areas open. Yeah, I'll still have to talk about, because we are looking at how do we proceed further in these trying times for Africa, Nigeria in particular. For me, it's in terms of the technological developments. How do we try to diversify the oil and gas supply chain? Or in terms of talent transfer, how are we looking at making use of existing infrastructure? If we are still going to produce crude oil as our fossil fuel as our major source of energy, personally, I would think we should start looking at carbon sequestration, carbon capture and carbon sequestration technologies. Although all of these also have its own demerits in terms of reservoir heterogeneity, where we're storing this carbon in depleted reserves. So in terms of reservoir heterogeneity, induced seismicity and the like. So I don't know if there's a way we can provide platform for research. We have a lot of depleted oil and gas reserves in Nigeria. So if we continually want to produce this hydrocarbon, which we don't really have any other alternative source in the nearest future, we should develop ways whereby we can, all of these technologies are already in place in other parts of the country, in other part of the world where people capture carbon and still store it on the ground. Yeah, it comes with a lot of other environmental degradation, but people have research have found out that we have several means whereby we can contain this degradation. So personally, I think carbon sequestration technology. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Yinka. I think you are going towards the area of creating more research opportunities, right? While trying to exhaust what we have and then create more opportunities for us. Thanks. It's taken on.
Yes, sir.
My sincere apologies for those of us that are joining us for the first time. In NAPE-UAP Roundtable Forum, we always keep to time 1 hour. We always make it 1 hour because I know when I was bringing Dr. Fatona of FNAPE to this, I know I would struggle for time, but please, we must recognize all that people have said. Mr. Adebayo Okunla logged in all the way from Canada, and he says, energy transition question cannot be divorced from curriculum revamping in our universities. And I agree with him. I propose that NAPE should drive the initiative of work with Nigerian University Commission and the University Senate and Governing Council. All order, eh? Yeah, NAPE as association and NAPE-UAP will continually do what we should do. Special thanks to our beloved president and the NMGS. In September, we anchored our 10th mini conference for the students. I believe you me, it was highly explosive for the students. Mr. Adebayo, thank you very much for this. We'll submit it, we'll think about it, because what I gather from what Dr. Fatona presented to us today is for us to see the problem, let's feel it, let's test it, and then start thinking of ways to articulate solutions. And maybe by the time we'll come up with something, we'll submit it back to him and say, okay, the problem you gave to us, after all, students after writing the exam, they submit to their lecturers to mark. Okay, find a way of marking this solution, this exam. So, Fatona, you ain't going nowhere. Eh? Let me speak American. Ms. Ogechi Ekwenyi said, research and development is key to achieve this. Solar and wind energies are abundant in Nigeria. Okay. Professor Sam Okonde also posited that the energy transition is a global theme, but survival is paramount in Africa. So our stage of development will translate into what we can achieve as we think of 2030, 2040, and 2050. And this is where I see a lot of opportunities for our beloved students. I'll go back to the audience. Mr. Ajibola Oyebamiji, FNAPE, former president, or is it past president or IIPP? Please unmute yourself and then get to. But please, let's start being time conscious. Ajibola, I know you are time conscious. Thank you very much. Because I have 7 minutes to summarize.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Very well, loud and clear.
Okay. Let me thank our speaker, the retired entrepreneur. We know that he's not retired. So thank you for the discussions on all of this, and thank you for the assignment that you're giving to UAP. Just a quick reaction to some of the things that have been said is the fact that we already have, there's no need for us to start having committees again. We already have the curriculum review committee that's headed by Dr. Kenny Ladipo, working with NNGS and working with the Nigerian University Commission. It is to have this committee think about how this can affect or have a positive impact on the university. And I believe that the students are also listening. The second thing I want to say is the fact that the essence of the think tank committee is also centered around discussions, conversations like this. And it is high time committees begin to put their work together and come up to either NAPE conferences and make presentations on what they've been able to do over the years. COVID has not helped us, I agree perfectly. But to the students, and really, okay, if I talk about solar, somebody talk about research and development, it is key. I used to manage the research and development in my organization. And the truth is this, looking at the global world irradiation map of the entire world, and you concentrate on Africa alone, in Nigeria, and you put Nigeria at a whole. From the north central part where I am in Abuja up to the northern part of Nigeria, they have no reason to be on the national grid, considering the kind of energy from solar that we have, if properly harnessed. That's on one side. So really, my advice to students and to the university is to also begin to rejig their curriculum and for students to stop doing research only in seismic interpretation and all of this. Gone are the days. We need to recreate ourselves and flow with what is going on in the world. Enough of, I want to do seismic interpretation as a project. I want to do, around the fossil fuel. If you go back to the fossil fuel, and all of us will all agree that the energy from gas is still the cleanest. And even in the Niger Delta, that is named as a gas-prone delta, we have not even actually started into gas exploration. We have not started deliberately going for gas exploration. Most of the gases that we have in the Niger Delta, they are associated gases. And so thank God for some of the companies, the indigenous companies that are going into gas exploration and producing and generating energy. But students need to know that gas exploration, solar energy, renewable energy, research areas are the areas that they need to be going for their project. And some of the companies, some of the NGOs can help us. And I know that a lot of Nigerian students are going outside the country, and many of them that have seen this year, they've gotten scholarships studying outside in the US and the UK. They have deliberately gone for renewable energy research areas. No longer, I saw a lot of students in some of the things that we coordinate. And so really, this is what the students and the university, this is my advice to them. This is what they should be thinking about. Thank you very much. I'll leave it at that because of our time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my IIPP, Mr. Jibola Oyebamiji, my elder brother. You are an FNAPE. I think you've really answered Rokib's question. Rokib is from Fatona, very close to you there in Abuja. So he was asking Dr. Fatona, what advice do you have for students with ambition of transitioning into the energy industry? So Rokib and all the students listening, IIPP have answered that question. And also, Dr. Fatona, there's a question for you here. And let me give a small background to where the question was coming from. During the mini conference, Dr. Eno donated his book, which he called Geology and Me, and it was shared to all Nigerian universities. So I think that's where this question is coming from. Dr. Fatona, do you have any plan of publishing your biography just like Dr. Emmanuel Enu did? That's another question for you. So to wrap us up, I will go to our EIC to use a minute to put a suggestion on the table, and then we'll close out from there. We are 2 minutes getting to our time, so we'll use 1 minute for you, 1 minute to round up. Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Dr. Jackson, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you.
Please go ahead. I think I lost Dr. Jackson. Okay, so back to you, Dr. Triple Doctor, retired entrepreneur geologist, Layi Fatona, FNAPE. Please, you can help us wrap up with all these solutions to your question, whether we've done good or if this is a mock exam.
Thank you so much. I got more than I bargained for. I was very, very happy that a lot of people latched on to my concerns, and I am leaving this evening a little bit very, very fulfilled and very, very satisfied. I want to thank everybody who has listened in, participated, commented, and made all sorts of suggestions. So the gentleman who asked about my autobiography, I just want to say that I'm always a very late starter, and my autobiography is coming. Actually, I can tell you the title of the book. It's called Life on the Margin. So
writing it down.
It's ongoing, and you are not the only one who is kicking me from behind, who wants to read my story. But my story, everybody knows my story. But it's still a responsibility that I owe NAPE, and I owe my generation, my family, to put my story together by myself, not told by somebody on my behalf. So thank you very much for adding to the pressure of making sure that this gets done. And I know a lot of people read autobiographies. The latest one that has just won the national award was the autobiography of Professor Yawoye. If you haven't gotten it, it's a big fat book. I got one sent to me this morning, signed by him, and I'm warming up for a very nice weekend on the stock. So because I have something that I can use my time on. So once again, thank you very much, Madam President. I know you're a very, very stickler for time. So thank you very much for indulging me and for giving me the opportunity to ramble, as I always do. And I want to wish everybody a very, very nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fatona FNAPE, and to all my beloved UAP community, I want to appreciate us all. NAPE conference comes up in next month, few days from now. So please go onto our website and register. It's going to be a hybrid event and minimum number of physical presence. So please, if you want to be physically present, please go in now and log on and register yourself and be part of it. And we also have opportunity for you to be virtual. We'll be knocking at the doors of so many companies that are here present for sponsorship. And I will leave it at that. And I want to thank all of us. I see a lot of Adams Awodi. I see a lot of fellows of, please pardon my not following the protocols, but please let me stand or sit on the existing protocols. And, I'll go back to my president and before we close.
Well, this is a very good use of 1 hour. Dr. Fatona, you did not disappoint. There's a saying that the words of our elders are words of wisdom. So the UAP community and even myself, we appreciate you sharing from your wealth of experience, and thank you for the challenge that you have thrown to us. Mr. Ajibola is right when he says that we have a think tank and we have people who are looking at this. So I would like to encourage people to write in, your thoughts, your opinions, or a collation of what we have discussed today, and will be handed to the think tank. Our think tank was supposed to be roaring ahead on all issues that had to do with our concerns as NAPE as a body, but COVID kind of put a damper on that. I'm happy that COVID is waning, and so we'll be we will have the opportunity to pick up steam again and see how we can engage at the highest levels, because all these things we're saying are good, but we must have government buy-in. We must be able to knock on the door of government and have them invite us in to listen to us. Because, of course, we know that we have a lot of ideas. We have solutions, even in this meeting. But it's just that the connection. And I'm sure we'll get it done. On behalf of the NAPE ESCO, I see the NAPE fellows, the NAPE members in the diaspora, and the NAPE members. I want to thank you, Dr. Fatona, for giving of yourself, giving of your time. I know that you are NAPE, and NAPE is you. We really appreciate you. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you allowing us to share part of your evening. It's been a very, very interesting conversation, but this is not the end. It is a beginning, and there will be more in smaller groupings or in larger groupings, as the case may be. Thank you all very much, and I bid you a good evening. Goodbye.
Thank you, my president, for closing us. And Tunde, back to you. We'll come back and close with our national anthem again so that we can close. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. I appreciate us all. Tunde, national anthem. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tunde. Secretariat will always appreciate you. Thank you for all the good work you do for us. Thank you for the attendees. Dr. Fatona, a lot of encomiums are coming on you. Somebody is already booking for 10 copies of your yet to be published autobiography. So they're also adding pressures on you. Thank you, everybody, and sign off now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Igwe, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Tunde, back to you, and then we'll close. Bye.